r/ask Reddit. What is the creepiest thing that society accepts as a cultural norm? People knowing every detail about celebrities' lives. OMG, I saw Ariana Grande tweeting about this earlier, right before I followed her to her car. Not even their lives though, just being invested in celebrities in general. I know someone who literally cried when Kylie Jenner and Travis Scott broke up, talking completely seriously about how they don't believe in love anymore even though their parents have been happily married for over 25 years. Child beauty pageants are for who, exactly? Who enjoys them? And why? The more you really think about it, the less happy you should be. Seriously, I just rewatched Little Miss Sunshine a few hours ago and seeing all those little girls caked in makeup made me feel super uncomfortable. Is that the one where the Snap Map on Snapchat? Most people don't turn it off and you can just see where a person is and where they live and the last they were on Snapchat. I read Snapman and then read the rest of your post with fear that a Snapman is some creature that knows where you are and is stalking. The Snapman is watching you right now, outside. She is bullying you because she likes you. I had a girl throw a glass bottle at me in middle school and it gave me a hell of a black eye. I told an adult this story and she was like, oh, she must really like you. Was like, what? I hope not, cause I called the cops on her. Duck that stupid girl. Hope you didn't get any severe problems. Besides the black eye, I was at a camp for problem weird whatever kids. I can't completely remember the name. I don't really know why I was there, to be honest. Anyway, one kid, he decided I was his new love. He told me he loved me. He told me I had to be his girlfriend. He would freak me out while everyone was meant to play games like heads down, thumbs up and whatever else, where other people weren't actively watching interactions between campers by doing kissing faces and love signs etc at me. One day he had enough of me refusing his advances and smashed me on the hand with a plastic cricket bat. I cried a lot. My fingernail went black. Not anymore. But when I was young, Family Feud was hosted by Richard Dawson, and Richard Dawson would go down the line and kiss every woman on the show on the lips. On the lips. Even the underage girls. And he did this season after season. And back then that was somehow acceptable on broadcast television. https://www.youtube.com watch time continue equals 22 and v equals ivp and feature equals m logo. Judging from his Wikipedia article, he was really adamant about kissing contestants. One of Dawson's trademarks on Family Feud, kissing the female contestants, earned him the nickname the Kissing Bandit. Television executives repeatedly tried to get him to stop the kissing. After receiving criticism for the practice, he asked viewers to write in and vote on the matter. The male response resulted in about 200,000 responses, the wide majority of whom were in favor of the kissing. On the 1985 finale, Dawson explained that he kissed contestants for love and luck, something his mother did with Dawson himself as a child. Dawson explained that he kissed contestants for love and luck, something his mother did with Dawson himself as a child. Such a flimsy status quo justification. Just because you did it before doesn't mean it's okay now. We might as well not be wearing seat belts. Feeding children disgusting amounts of sugar and then blaming them for being fat. On that note, not allowing kids to run around outside, but then complaining about their lack of fitness. Hahaha, this is one of my favorite rant topics because I got this treatment to no end. Go outside, they would say, and do what? You ban me from walking to the park. We don't have a big yard. I don't live near friends. And I'm only allowed to ride my bike up and down our block. We live on the short side to boot, pretty much limited my options to sit, stand, pace, or bounce a ball on the outside of the house, which I would eventually get yelled at for doing as well. Well, in South Africa we have this cultural practice called virginity testing, where an old woman will take your female child into the bush, shove her finger into her vagina to see if she's still a virgin, and if so, she and a bunch of other girls that have undergone the same process will get to dance topless in front of the chief at the chance of one of them being his bride. I mean, the practice of the act is protected under cultural law, but still, you're letting someone your grandmother's age finger your daughter in the woods. Edit. For those wondering about age, it's around 18 give or take 2 years, but for the sake of keeping it legal most people stick to 18 edit. Okay, a few South African people are bothered that I'm not shedding light on the fact that this is practiced by only a single culture out of the tens that SAR has. This is true. Oh god. WTF. Sounds like something TI would be into. It's normal to give up your personal data for no good reason. If you refuse or voice your concern, people look at you weird because why do you care if you have nothing to hide? My co-workers think I'm insane because a few weeks ago we got on this topic and I said I googled my name and city, then removed all the instances of where my full name and home address showed up on those creepy people finder sites. Then I did the same with my husband until our home address wasn't found when I googled our names. I also told them about the deep dive I did on my fake Facebook account. No friends, just used to run a business page, and how hard it was to find all the settings that gave them permission to gather data. Even if my Facebook wasn't open on my computer, they all said if I have nothing to hide I shouldn't be worried. I couldn't argue with them because they genuinely don't understand privacy. Edit. For everyone asking how to remove their information from these sites, each site is a little different and it usually takes me a while to find the opt-out, but I start by looking at the privacy policy or contact page in the footer of the site. Usually the opt-out is hidden in text on one of those pages. You usually need to copy the link to the page with your information and paste it in the form along with your email address. I do a weekly purge of this. I have had a stalker for the past 8 years, so I don't really want him to have my address. That's why I keep moving. Recording literally everything about their lives for clout. No pics. It didn't happen. The race to losing your virginity. It seriously messes with some people's minds. I think being exposed to porn at a young age gives you inaccurate ideas about sex and makes what you're talking about more messed up. US culture has inadequate and often abstinence-only sexual education. Teenagers with raging hormones learns inaccurate knowledge and unrealistic expectations from porn and places like Cosmos culture. Surprise Pikachu. Child pageants. If the girl is like 16 to 18, fine. Just fine. They're almost young adults. But like 6-year-olds belly dancing on stage with a two-piece. Nah, I guess that's a opinionated answer, but it just creeps me out. Edit. Wow. Thanks for all the replies. Thoroughly enjoying myself seeing this much disgust toward child pageants. I verify. You'll make awesome parents. Also, what a bleep bloop is this darko movie everyone is referring to? Edit. Thanks for the silver. My first one. I've got nothing against drag, but that drag queen kid who was allegedly working at a gay bar at age 11. That's just wrong. Don't forget that he stripped off layers of clothes and had a totally bare midriff. And not even just like exposed belly button. Exposed all the way to nipples. But don't worry because people insisted it totally wasn't sexual. Rich famous people being pedophiles. All of these celebrities become friends with minors in their early teens, groom them and start dating them when they turn 18. It's perceived as normal for a 30-something to start dating a person on their 18th birthday. Just cause it's legal doesn't mean it's moral. Open bracket. Looking at you, Drake. Ducking groomer. I'm honestly looking forward to the day Drake royally screws up. Separation of church and state not actually being separated. Amen. Praise Allah. Parents essentially recording a child's entire life from baby to adult on social media. It's disturbing to me how many parents will do this with zero regard for how their child will feel about it later in life. I'm actually so glad I was born a decade before Facebook even existed. I imagine this is going to become more of a mainstream political issue in the next couple of decades, in the form of Gen Z Greek letter alpha people demanding stronger child privacy rights as they realize their entire lives have been laid bare for all to see. I completely agree. YouTubers using their kids for views, clout being the most vile offenders emo. Brush off the idea that men can't get sexually assaulted or abused. Also all the weird shit that women are allowed to say to little boys. It can be a baby and girls will talk about how he's gonna be lady killer. I remember being a kid at church surrounded by my mom's friends all telling me how handsome I am and pinching my cheeks. Her best friend's mom had a running joke about me being her boyfriend. On that note, I often hear teenage or grown women joke about toddler boys being their boyfriend. A lot of it doesn't seem that weird until you imagine the situations reversed. Imagine a 10-year-old girl surrounded by grown men, touching all over her and making mildly suggestive comments, jokes, and that not seeming weird thing is a huge part of the problem. Even as a guy that cares a lot about this topic, I still catch myself giving women a pass, or not taking things as seriously as I should until I consider the reversed situation. Yes, all of this. My son is 4 and honestly, the kid is super cute and has a really fun personality. Last summer, I went to pick him up and he was digging in the dirt, along with 3 of his classmates. It just so happened that the classmates were all girls. A teacher's assistant came over to me and would not shut up about how I better get used to having girls around my son because he is a heartbreaker already. Those girls just won't leave him alone, etc. I finally interrupted and told her that they'd been in class together for 2 years and they'd always dug in the dirt together, and then collected my son and left. In my head, though, I was thinking about how insane she sounded. I'm European and I think it might make people uncomfortable how okay I am with nudity. I think the world would be a better place if nudity stopped being so vilified. Like, we're born naked. Simply being naked doesn't have to be sexual. Like, we're born naked. We were also screaming, covered in fluids and unable to walk. Not allowing elderly people to decide when they want to die. Who the hell wants to live with dementia? Obviously the retirement homes healthcare industry makes trillions off this, which is who shaped our beliefs on the subject in the first place without even realizing it. I agree with this. We are more humane to our animals suffering than people. There has to be a way to provide someone with that choice. Advanced directive like. Obviously the retirement homes healthcare industry makes trillions off this, which is who shaped our beliefs on the subject in the first place without even realizing it. You haven't ever actually worked in healthcare, have you? Purity balls. I just had a general obsession over other people's virginity or lack thereof. Duck too many guys and you're slut. Too few and you're prude. Duck a bunch of girls and you're stud. Duck too few and you're loser. Like no one should actually care that much about who's getting laid. Throw in the obsession with non-heterosexuality being unnatural and it gets really creepy to me how much people are thinking about who I might or might not have had sex with. Worrying about what other guys do with their dong seems pretty gay if you ask me. Making kids be affectionate when they don't want it. The whole idea of give them a hug goodbye or give grandma a kiss. Screw that. I never made my kid do anything like that. I don't care whose feelings got hurt. I hate this. I ask my kids to wave goodbye or even just say bye or hi is good enough. Had my partner's sister-in-law stand at my door and made her kid give my kids a kiss. My kids were not particularly fond of it. Just spreading germs. OMG yes. Just because your family doesn't mean you automatically deserve anything. Body autonomy is important and it applies to children as well. Adults can say they don't want to be hugged, touched, talked to anyone. Yet when it's a child, that doesn't matter because it's family. Especially when it's a family they don't know well. And even if they did, they have the right to say no. And please stop making them feel bad and fake cry after it too. I always ask for a hug. And if they don't want to, I'm not hurt by that. I love all of my cousin's kids. And I babysat 3 of them. So out of the group, I know those 3 quite well. And sometimes they don't want to hug me. Sometimes it's a high five. Sometimes they sit in my lap. And sometimes they run off to play. If you love a family, you should respect their personal space. End of story. Child marriage. Only 34 states have a minimal marriage age in the US. There really needs to be a federal law on this. Edit. Added some facts. Only 14% of child marriages from 2000 to 2010 were between kids. Most are between a child and adult. Luckily at least the majority is at age 17. 67% of the children were aged 1,729%, of the children were aged 164%, of the children were aged 151%, of the children were aged 14 and under. But when looking at areas with the youngest age or the largest age gap, it happens in states with the worst laws. Examples: An 11-year-old boy married a 27-year-old woman in 2006 in Tennessee, and in 2010 a 65-year-old man married a 17-year-old girl. These are extreme cases, but having a federal law requiring a minimal marriage age of 18 would be a great start in protecting these kids. My state is proposing a bill to establish 16 as the minimum age, and so many people on local news pages do not understand what this legislation is about. LOL. Most think it's basically encouraging 16-year-olds to get married and haven't ever even begun to fathom child brides. We even have a disgusting, fairly local story about a child predator marrying his victim at 14 because there was no minimum age and her parents were easily manipulated. This should be a common sense, no-brainer law on a federal level for sure. Pretty much any TV show that has secret footage. I saw an rerun of What Not to Wear recently where someone was thinking of not doing it, and one of the response was, well, we only stalked you a little. IDK if it's just that I'm older now, but most reality TV really freaks me out. It's all scripted, so it's not really secret footage. Cutting off part of people's genitals. Yep, definitely not going to continue that tradition when the time comes. Someone is trying to convince you to cut a portion of your infant son's genitals off. Burden of proof is about as high as it can get. Vague claims about it being more sanitary don't cut it, even if that were true to some extent. So what? To what degree? Shaving your kid's hair off preemptively would probably reduce the danger of contracting lice, but that doesn't seem proportional to the risk. I'm open to hearing reasoning in favor of the practice, but what I've heard so far isn't compelling. It's all complete BS. There is no benefit and there are risks of complications. In the US, between 100 to 250 babies die from circumcision complications each year, and more than that suffer disfigurement ranging from complete destruction of the penis to mild deformity. Just napkin math. If 4 mil babies are born in the US each year, 8-ish in 2018, and about 2 mil are boys, actually fewer, and 60% are circumcised, actual estate 58%, then you have 2 mil circumcisions. Let's say that results in just 500 death disfigurement incidents. That's 1 in every 2,400. Those are not good odds. Not so much a cultural norm, but see it a lot in society. Feeling that addicts are deserving of life, i.e., they shouldn't be given Narcan when overdosing. I think it's even worse hearing it from a MDRN, someone in healthcare. After working in as a social worker, I would hear it from some of the nurses, and it just baffled me that they became a nurse to help only certain people, like others aren't as deserving of life. Not to mention, not everyone that overdoses is an addict. Sometimes it's a suicide attempt, other times it's a person that is taking them as prescribed but was given too big of a dose, etc. Including the so-called 3 strikes and you're dead laws. Nudity not allowed on TV, but graphic violent deaths are. There was a scene in Hannibal of 2 flayed, naked people, and NBC found their naked butts too offensive. To make it less offensive, they covered their asses with blood and it was approved. The result, open bracket, NSFW? Grown men making comments on young girls' bodies. This is super common where I'm from, and TBH, I think men who do this should be shot or put in the ground. Or those creepy countdown calendars till a child celebrity turns 18. She'll be hot when she's older. Shudder. Adult women having sex with or lusting after teenage boys. A very close friend of mine had his first time when he was 15 to a 35-year-old woman. He said that she told him she wanted to sleep with him in order to show him how to properly please a woman so that he won't be lost and confused when he gets older. The fact that a grown-ass woman said that to a teenage boy is just vile and disgusting. Like, no dude, she's not showing you shit. She's just being a ducking predator. It made me angry when he told me about it. And people suggesting that adult women having sex with teenage boys is okay because the boys wanted it. Just the sexualization of men as a whole is outright dodgy as hell. That in America, if you go to jail or prison for any reason, you are allowed to be brutalized, raped and treated as subhuman with 0 rights. Amazon Alexa and Google Home. Those things are always listening and hear everything you say and do. Yet everyone has them, and Spotify was handing them out for free. Each day we get closer to a 1984 situation. So are most phones by default if they have wake words enabled, and they follow you around. It's weird how, when you go to a men's tailor, they go up one side, move it over, they go up the other, move it back, and then they do the back. Those fake, real looking baby dolls. Countdowns to when a famous woman turns 18, like being able to say that she's legal now doesn't lower the creep factor. Billie Eilish, IDK how to spell her last name, for example. I can't imagine how uncomfortable she was when everyone was literally counting down the days until she turned 18. Men sending unsolicited dong pics. I don't know about you, but I've never really thought that was normal. I don't even wanna look at my dong. Why would a random woman want it? Spouses cheating on each other. It's a horrible thing to do to someone, but people treat it like it's juicy gossip. My friends in sororities talking about how they only socialize with frats within their tier, aka the top 3 hottest frats only have parties with the top 3 hottest sororities, or how during rush week they eliminate people purely based on looks. Made me uncomfortable how they acknowledged they know it's wrong but it's just the way it is. Pretending that terrible things are happening in their community every night. I don't understand why so many people will let others suffer and die to maintain the illusion that they live in a good neighborhood or stuff like that doesn't happen here instead of taking action to actually have a good community. The notion that you can't have a sense of morality without religion. Trophy hunting. You know, a lot of people hate it, but it's widely accepted and it's horrific that it's still treated like a sport. Someone's mentioned purity balls, but I'd extend it to most cultures' stupid interest in, especially female, virginity. Even in the West there's too much emphasis on it. Life coaches, self-help gurus and MLMs. Social media. One for me is jokes about male rape, particularly in the prison context. TikTok. I don't really know what it's all about but seems like hordes of people thirsting over 15-year-olds. Alcohol. It's at least, if not more, dangerous than any other drugs. It's just as addictive as any other drug, yet the stigma doesn't stick with it. Imagine if I invited my friends out to shoot heroin with me after a long week, yet it's perfectly normal to drink ourselves into oblivion. Caring about virginity. Medically, virginity doesn't exist. Nothing changes in your body when you have sex. It makes sense if you think about it. Nothing else in your body works this way. You don't have a gland in your mouth that swells the first time you have Mexican food. You don't have a bone that cracks the first time you high-five someone. Why would you have a thing that changes the first time a penis enters a vagina? But the amount we care whether or not someone has had sex, to the point that we even have a word for it. But there is no word for someone who has never swam before. There is no word for someone who has never kissed. But whether someone has had sex is just part of the vocabulary, and in many places is a social or even legal thing. Killing and eating animals. Mandatory loyalty speeches for kids ages 5-18. If you're talking about the Pledge of Allegiance, I 100% agree. That's brainwashing right there. When I was little I was an America Duck yeah kid. But as I got older and started understanding politics and serious events, I realized the government used pride and shit to get what they want. I grew out of that and I'm smarter about stuff like where my loyalties lie. I remember one of my teacher as a little kid getting mad at one of the students for not saying the pledge. That shit stopped when we got older. Possibly because we weren't vulnerable anymore. IDK. Circumcision. Hey, here's a perfectly healthy newborn boy. Let's lop skin off his most sensitive part. I know some do it for religious reasons, but I hear a woman say she wants him to be like his dad. Makes me wonder, if the dad lost a finger by accident, would she want the kid's finger chopped off so they match? People having to die or suffer being the lowest class. Taking photos, videos of strangers, public proposals, someone dressed in a funny outfit, seeing people get wedding photos taken in a public place and deciding to photograph the bride, etc. I always get really frustrated when I see something like a proposal go down and they're suddenly encased in a circle of people with their phones out. Working 50% of your waking life to make someone else rich. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.